And I'd like to introduce our high school principal, Mr. Sean O'Hara.
Well, good evening, everybody. I'm Sean O'Hara, principal of Riverhead High School. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. It is a beautiful evening outside, and you are spending some time with us, so we really appreciate you being with us. This is our college night. Tons of information for you. We are with you every step of the way. Those of you who are joining us, you're thinking about college, thinking about applying to college. What is the process like? And you have come to the right spot. Joining us this evening is our Director of Guidance, Mr. Charles Gassar, and also Assistant Director of Admissions from Siena College, Mr. Anthony Felicia, who Mr. Gassar will introduce a little bit more in depth in a little bit. But once again, just thank you so much for joining us. If you have any questions about anything that you hear this evening, please reach out to us or your child's guidance counselor, and we will make sure that you are in good hands and you are in a good place as you begin your process of thinking about applying to colleges. Mr. Gassar.
Thank you, Mr. O'Hara, and thank you, families, for joining us tonight. Just going to give you a little overview of what we're looking to do here. The presentation is going to be in two parts. Mr. Felicia is going to be speaking through the eyes of an admissions officer, what schools are looking for, and how the application process works from their desk and their vantage point once a student actually applies. A little bit about Siena College. It's right out of Albany. It is a very, very popular application site for Riverhead students. Every year we have quite a few students applying there. It's a really nice fit for Riverhead kids, really for Long Island kids in general. And we actually were up there on a college tour not too many, maybe 2 years ago, with about 38 juniors at the time. That was before the shutdowns and the virus. And it was fantastic. They were incredibly hospitable, and our kids really fell in love with the school. And we've had some students attend there, and any student from Riverhead that I knew that attended Siena completed Siena. And that is certainly saying something. So after Mr. Felicia speaks about his portion, through the eyes of the admissions officers, he's going to turn it over to me, and I am going to speak a little bit about the application process at Riverhead High School. It's not going to be a full in-depth junior planning conference, which we are now open for business with at the guidance office for the families of our juniors. You should have received a letter over the spring break inviting you to contact the guidance counselor. Again, this is if you have a child in 11th grade. That is something that is part of the 11th grade experience for our students. So we invite you to do that, where we will get into specific, detailed, individual analysis of your individual child. But tonight I'm going to kind of go over most of the high points of the Junior Planning Conference and talk a little bit about how we prepare our students for the college selection and application process. So at this point, I want to again welcome Mr. Anthony Felicia. I really appreciate you coming out here tonight, Anthony, and welcome to Riverhead.
Thank you so much, Mr. Gassar and Mr. O'Hara and all the Riverhead community members. Appreciate you guys welcoming into your homes on this, again, as Mr. O'Hara said, beautiful evening. We are going to talk a little bit about the college process for you guys and Siena College. We're going to jump in a little bit more about Siena, but really kind of hone in on the entire college process for all of you guys. So to start, a little bit about me. As you guys can see, I look a little different, a little shorter hair. So, I did graduate from Siena in the class of 2017, but I am originally from Long Island. I'm a Long Islander. I miss it every single day. I'm from Nassau County over in Hicksville. I went to Holy Trinity High School, graduated there in 2013, and went through this college process, 5-6 years ago now. But I am one of four. I'm the second oldest of four. My two younger sisters recently went through the process, and one's a junior at Holy Trinity now going through the process. So I help them out with it through the family side, but I'm also going through it on the college side as well. So doing a lot throughout the college process for a lot of different people. But I love it. I went through Siena, struggled at the beginning, trying to find my way, used a lot of different support systems, found my way, and ultimately here to kind of help guide the next generation and help the next group of students kind of find their way. But the college process, right? Big, daunting process, very nerve-wracking, very exhausting. If you have older siblings or older children, you might have gone through it. You might have gone through it yourself as a parent, or you might be going through it for the first time starting now. it's not as bad as it sounds. I know, again, it's very nerve-wracking and it's exhausting. There are a lot of resources that you guys will learn about throughout tonight, also at your college planning night, or the junior planning sessions you guys have at your schools. It's very important to utilize these resources, and we're going to talk a little bit about them. But it's really important to utilize these resources, right? All these individuals that are in your life, they're there to help and guide you and help bring you to that next step. So we're going to tackle some of these tonight, but we're really going to dive into, like I said, a little bit more of the big picture of the college process. So to start, like I said, the college process starts now. So it's never too early. You can be, freshmen, sophomores, juniors, wherever you are in your college process, it starts now. And these are some of the big 4 steps that I always tell families who are just starting their college process to really hone in on. So the first one that you can do at this very moment is doing your homework. And I'm not talking about your English homework or your history homework, right? I'm talking about doing your college research homework. There's a lot of things to think about when you're going through the college process. The size, the distance to home. Maybe you want to go to a school that's really great in physics and science, or maybe you're more of a liberal arts type student like Sienna. There's a lot of things to consider. So now's a good time to start doing your homework. You have a lot of resources at your hand. You have your parents, you have your guidance counselors, you have the entire school, you have, your friends, you have your friends' older sisters and brothers, you have your siblings. There's a lot of people who are there to help you through this college process. And not only that, majority of us have cell phones right now, or the internet at your disposal. Being in the world of the pandemic has been, or the way that the pandemic has shifted everything, a lot more is at your fingertips throughout the internet than maybe in the past couple of years. Use that to your advantage. Google things, go on schools' websites, use, pick up the phone and call people, join Zoom calls. Almost every single college right now in this world, especially in this country, but overall in the world, are doing a lot of virtual and virtual events and things that are done through the internet. So use these resources, use these things to your advantage. The next step, take a campus tour. Right now, it's hard to do in-person tours, but there are some colleges out there that are offering in-person tours. If you and your families are in a position where you can make a trip, you can go visit a campus tour, by all means do it. Most, though, are going to kind of elect for that virtual option. And right now, that virtual option is huge because it gives you guys as good of a feel of a college as you can possibly get without physically going there in the world that we're living in. And these virtual programs, virtual tours are great because you still spend time with students, you still hear from admissions, you get to see things that you might not have been able to see before. Maybe, you're checking out a school in California when previously you couldn't fly to California, you couldn't drive cross country. Maybe it's down in the Carolina. Like, there's a lot of other options right now that, virtual options are there for, and they're opening the doors. So utilize those campus tours and those campus programs that colleges are offering. And that last part is contact admissions. And I'll give you guys my contact at the end of this. But admissions, we aren't these big, scary people. We're really here to help you through the college process. We're looking for 1,000,001 reasons to help you get where you want to go. We're kind of just the big version, and not the big version, but the college version of your guidance counselors. We want to help you find the right fit. And if that's with Sienna, fantastic. If that's with, Gonzaga in Washington, fantastic. If it's with West Point, whatever it is, we really want to help you find your right fit. So use your admissions counselors. Most schools do their admissions counselors based on regions. So, they'll have a Long Island counselor. Like, I'm from Long Island. I also work with all the Long Island families. So utilize your guidance, your admissions teams at these schools. Again, just go on their website, search Sienna College admissions, or, SUNY Farmingdale admissions, or Marist admissions, or anything like that. And their staff will come up, and it also will give you a good idea of who to contact. It's also good to do this because certain programs have certain admissions counselors, and certain programs have certain requirements and things. So by doing your homework and kind of using these 4 steps all together at once, you really get yourself in a good position to get ahead of the game a little bit. Again, it's never too early to start, and your college process starts now. So it's a good time to pick all this stuff up. So I know some of you may be familiar with the general admissions requirements and some may not be, but we're going to talk a little bit about the application process. So the first step of the college application process is the application, right? And I know sometimes it might seem super simple, but a lot of high school students sometimes forget their college application, or they assume it's being done or things. So definitely utilize, again, your resources to make sure you're fulfilling the college application. Some college applications, like we, for instance, have what we call our fast forward application. There's a lot of different kinds. Our fast forward application is just our school specific application. So again, doing your homework, finding out which applications work for which colleges, that kind of falls on your shoulders. Sienna's application, the fast forward application, has a couple different benefits. We waive an application fee, which sometimes schools do or don't do. And then you also get your acceptance letter earlier. So there's little benefits and some caveats to some of the school-specific applications. Next, the most popular one is the common application. And that's one that I imagine you guys will have an opportunity to sit down with your guidance staff and work on. And that's accepted by a lot of colleges, not all colleges, but a good chunk of colleges. And again, you can go on their website and they'll tell you what to expect from there. But that common application is one single application you fill out, start to finish, and you can send it out to 1, 2, 5, 10, 15 schools because it's all one application, as opposed to the Siena specific one where we ask specific questions that pertain to just Siena. The Common Apple ask questions a little bit more broad, a little bit more applicable to a lot of different schools. All right, so the two different application types for the most part. Next, you guys will hear a lot about are the different application types, or not application types, they're application types in a way. So there's the early action, early decision, rolling admissions, regular admissions, all these words, a lot of different things going on. But they're just the different types of admit statuses you can have. And again, they all have little different caveats, and each schools do them differently. Some schools have some, but not others. Some have program specifics, a lot of variables. So again, doing your research, contacting admissions, that's all kind of falls on your shoulder. But the big, quick kind of explanation to them all, early action normally have an earlier deadline, but you hear back earlier. So, when I'm reviewing my Long Island applications, I take all the early action applicants first, and those are the applications I review first. They're early action, so they're not binding. That's what early decision is. So we'll talk about that in a minute. But what it really is, it gets you a chance to hear back from those respective schools a little bit earlier. Knows where, know the lay of the land a little bit more, where you're accepted, where you're not accepted, if you've received merit scholarships, and all that kind of stuff. So it just gives you a little bit more reassurance a little earlier in the college process during your senior year. Early decision, similar in almost every way to early action, but with one caveat, it is a binding application. So let's just say Siena is a school you fall in love with during your junior year, and absolutely no matter what, Siena is where you want to go. Siena. During your senior year, when you're working on your applications, you might want to go with the early decision route, because that's one, you get a little bit more preference for certain programs and certain schools in some cases, but also you hear a lot sooner. And once you get accepted, that's it. You're committed to that school. That is where you're going to college. So the early decision is it's a type of application where you want to go to this school. It's your dream school, has your dream program. Everything you want is right with that school. If it's a school that you might be interested in, but you're not 100% sure on, you're not going to want to do early decision. Then you have a couple different other applications, rolling admissions. So, as we get applications, we start giving acceptances and responses. So some schools have a specific deadline. We're not reviewing applications until insert date. Siena, for instance, we're not like that. We open applications at August 1st and starting the middle of September. As applications come through, we're going to get them out. So if you apply second week of September, by middle of October, you're hearing back whether you've been accepted or not, as opposed to waiting for January, February, or March. So again, similar to early action, but it's not always that early. It's, if you apply in March, you're going to hear in March. If you apply in December, you'll hear December, January. So it's just as they come, you get your answers. Regular admission for most schools is the normal application process, right? So you apply by their deadline of insert, let's say November 15th. Okay. And then you wait, and their regular admissions decisions come out January 15th. Okay. Well, then, from November 15th to January 15th, you're not going to hear about their admissions decision. Come January 15th, they're going to release their decision. So a couple different kinds of applications and different ways to apply. And they're all going to be very different based on schools, but also based on your needs. So again, if you know the program you want, and the school you want, maybe early decision's right for you. If you're not too sure, but you're trying to get ahead of the game and just make sure, you have your ducks in a row and you have your options open, maybe early action is your best way to go. Working with your family again, and your support system and your guidance staff, you're going to be able to put together the perfect plan for you and in your course of action. The rest of the application materials, your high school transcript, right? And that's something that your guidance counselor will send to your respective schools you apply to. Some schools, and Riverhead might do this. Do you guys request a release form of specific application documents, possibly when you guys are going through the application process? Sometimes, you'll have to put a request in with your guidance counselor saying, hey, hey, Mr. Gassar, I'm really interested in this school. Can you send my transcript, and can you send my letters of recommendation? So some schools have that kind of thing, but make sure your transcript goes to your respective schools by the deadlines. The next part is your letters of recommendations. In Siena, we only require a school counselor. Some other schools require teachers or other members of the community. Again, doing your research, knowing what you're getting yourself into. But those letters of recommendation, admission staffs love hearing what your community has to say about you, right? You're a big part of the community. You know, we love hearing the positive. We love getting to know you. And they're super important because when you go to a college, as important as your grades are, they're not only getting the academic side of you. They're getting all the extracurriculars. They're getting the kind of personality you have. They're getting every little piece of, who you are. So when your guidance counselors and teachers and other Siena or other community members can speak a little bit about that, we love hearing about it, just to know, again, the type of person you are that would be joining our community. Because when we're reviewing applications, that's a huge factor. We're trying to mold our future community members. And then the last route, transfers. If sometimes if you're interested in transferring, that's one thing. But we offer acceptances for transfer credits. So if any students are taking, dual enrollment courses or college level courses, we will transfer all of those as long as we get the college transcript as well as your final high school transcript. And if you're interested in transferring colleges, again, if any of you have older siblings possibly, and they're interested in transferring, you can always kind of use that transfer recommendation form as well. The bottom part is we highly recommend a virtual interview before you apply. Siena, we do not require interviews. Some colleges may require interviews. Highly encourage them, again, doing your research, asking admissions. This is a great touch point. It's a great way for you to learn a little bit more about the school, especially in a way that you're not going to be able to, because a lot of schools you can't visit still. By doing interviews, you have another touch point and there's another learning opportunity. So interviews they're never going to hurt you doing a college interview. Never going to hurt you. They can only help you. Alrighty. Next, we're going to talk about kind of what matters most. So if you had to rank everything through the college process, the way that we see it here at Siena, and most colleges do, your transcript's your number one thing. So, your transcripts, your 4 years of high school, your grades, your classes you're taking, making sure that you're putting yourself in a competitive space, but still being successful in the classroom. So your transcript's a huge, huge factor when going through the application process. The next big thing is your letters of recommendation. Again, we love hearing what your community has to say about you. We want to learn more. We want to know who you are. Your letters of recommendation speak volumes about you. College interviews, if you can do one, fantastic. We love them. And the last part is the application essay. Sometimes people will flip the interview and the essay, but not all schools require an essay. Like, we're essay optional, so it doesn't always hold as much weight as others. But that essay really gives you a chance to explain to the college who you are, what you're looking to do with your life, your story. It gives you a chance to explain again who you are. So that essay can make or break your application sometimes. And then these are some big factors that most families and most students and what all colleges explain are important factors to consider while going through the college process. And the first one is what we call the retention rate. And your freshman retention rate is just the percentage of students that come back for their sophomore year. And there's a lot of factors that go into the retention rate. So, obviously your academic success, your academic support, your overall environment. Did you acclimate well? Do you have did you make friends? Were the classes manageable? Were you able to find food you like to eat on campus? Were you able to join clubs? Were you able to get back and forth from home? There's a lot of factors that go into the college process and that can affect the retention rate. And retention rate, not every school has as high as we do. We're pretty fortunate that Siena students love Siena. But the higher, closer to 100%, the better. That means the more students are coming back for their sophomore year because they, again, got the support they're looking for, found the mentors they're looking for, had all the things that lead them to being successful offered to them. And one of the reasons why we have such a high retention rate is this mentorship, is this support system that's built on Siena's campus. We are this one big happy family, if you will, which, for me, I have a very large, close-knit Italian family. I mean, Anthony Joseph Policio, not sure how much more Italian you can really get than that. And so I wanted to go somewhere that I was going to have this support under me the entire time from start to finish. My first year at Siena, my first semester, was almost every parent's nightmare. And a 1.8 GPA, it was just not, it didn't go according to plan pretty much. And I was in a position where I needed to find people who were going to help me. I needed, classmates and friends that were going to support me. I needed advisors. I needed mentorship programs. I needed all these academic support offices that were going to help me get on the right track. And we do an exceptional job at setting students up for success through our retention or through our academic support offices. And we have a number of them. We have a career center that sets you up, which we'll talk about in a little bit more and a little bit more in depth in a minute too. But the retention rate is a super, super important factor. And it really encompasses You know, some even call it like the happy meter, or lovability meter, if you want to call it something like that. It's just really how many students are having fun and how much love it, and they want to go back, and they're getting what they want out of their college experience. So retention rate is a huge factor. The next thing that a lot of colleges are stressing are hands-on learning. And this is something that goes by a lot of different names at a lot of different schools. Some call it hands-on learning, but what it really is your opportunity to learn outside the classroom. So Siena, we're a liberal arts college, and a lot of colleges have this ideology and this understanding that, you know, what you're learning in the classroom is super important, but what you're using, what you do with that knowledge is what's going to get you to that job or that internship, that graduation, or that grad school opportunity. So hands-on learning is a huge thing that a lot of students are interested in. And this is covered by, you know, studying abroad, doing research projects, doing internships. You know, if you're interested in education, maybe it's being a student doing your student teaching hours or your observation hours. It's just learning outside of the classroom. And that is a super important thing, because when you get to the working world, you know, you're not sitting in a book pretty much for the most part. You're learning on the go. You're learning in this application or applicable world. So hands-on learning is a huge factor that a lot of colleges like to talk about and like to their students to be aware of. Again, there are opportunities to learn outside of the classroom. Another huge factor, and one of the big reasons why you know, Siena is as successful as we are with our alumni networking and a lot of opportunities, is a graduation rate. So there's another big factor that to kind of think about while looking, again, doing your homework and kind of going through the motions of going through the college process. Your success for when you go to college. Some colleges are 5 years or 6 years. Totally cool. We at Siena, we're a 4-year graduation or 4-year school, and we have a very high graduation rate for our 4-year students. As you see, we're pretty significantly higher than a lot of other colleges, but the graduation rate plays a large factor. You know, are you going to get the experience you need and the courses you need done in those short years, in those 4 short years, to be work ready? Or, you know, if you change your major, are you going to get kind of caught behind the 8 ball? Are you going to need to transfer? Are you going to need to pick up summer courses? A lot of factors that you're going to have to think about. And a lot of that depends on the type of school you're looking into, the type of program you're looking into. Again, if maybe you have college courses or college coursework already in high school, that can help you out. A lot of different factors. But like I said, the graduation rate, definitely an important factor to think about when you're going through the college process. It's a big investment. It's a big commitment. You want to make sure you're getting, you know, a return on an investment, and that you're put in a position to be successful after those 4 short years. So graduation rate's a huge factor. And one of the biggest things that we really like to talk about is your success, right? When you graduate, what comes next? Are you getting jobs? Are you going to grad school? Like, what comes after your graduation? So job placement's a huge thing to be considering. Fortunately for Siena, we are #1 in New York State for job placement. So we've been pretty fortunate over the last couple of years. We've had the highest job placement rate in New York State, and we're top 10 in the country. But that's another important factor. You know, if you're going to a school that, you know, maybe one of the most, you know, maybe it's a fantastic brand school, if you want to call it that, some of the more bigger name schools, and you get an X degree from it. Like, I got a psychology degree from Siena. Okay, but what are you going to do when you graduate? Do you have networking opportunities? You're going to have an internship experience that's going to help you get a job. Are you going to be connected with the right people? Maybe you're graduating from, you know, the heart and a school in Boston, and there's a billion jobs there. Okay, great. But are you going to get those jobs? Were you prepared the right ways? So, you know, a lot of things to consider, and graduation rates super important, but job placement kind of goes hand in hand. So, you know, maybe we graduate 75% of our kids, but if only 5% of them are employed, we're not doing our full job of preparing you guys to getting where you want to go. So that job placement rate's a huge factor as well. So those are my biggest things. Like I said, retention rate, graduation rate, and job placement rate are the numbers and the facts and the figures that I always found were super important. Then you can learn a lot of those by doing your homework, going on a tour, doing all these other virtual events and kind of virtual programs. There's a lot of things that college is built into our platform, our websites, our programs to help you guys go through this college process. And then lastly, financial aid, right? The cost. Colleges are not cheap. Let's be real, right? They're not a cheap investment. They're a big investment. You're investing in yourself. Your family's helping invest in you for your future. So these are just a couple of the ways that colleges and individuals can help cut down costs for colleges and universities. The first one is the FAFSA, which stands for the Free Application for Federal Student Aid, and that's the general financial aid form that to be filled out. It becomes available every year on October 1st. And that's how you get, your federal and your federal student aid. A lot of colleges use that to kind of put together their financial aid packages for you, but it's a way to help fund your college experience. Secondly, merit scholarships, and these are pretty much your academic scholarships. So these are the scholarships that are awarded based on your merit in high school. The closer you are to, straight A's, the better your academic scholarship will be. So those are some schools have them set in stone, some are pretty flexible, and some don't offer them. So again, doing your research, knowing the kind of scholarship opportunities there are awarded to students in the biology program with a 95 GPA, or if you want to go to creative arts major and you're in the mid 80s, you want to just know your options, knowing your scholarship opportunities. Next, we have school grants and scholarships. So these are a little bit different than your merit academic scholarships. These are scholarships that are awarded to you for everything else you're doing, and these kind of tie in the next three a little bit altogether. Parts of clubs, parts of extracurriculars, maybe if you're a part of the fire department, if you were an all-county cross-country runner, things like that. And those are not athletic scholarships. These are kind of different, but these are other school grants and scholarships. These next thing that a lot of colleges offer are what's called endowed scholarships. And these are school-specific ones that are kind of similar to the grants, but you have to apply for them. You have to take an extra step. So some colleges will see, hey, you were part of the Irish step dancing team for 4 years. Hey, we have a scholarship for Irish step dancers. You should apply for it. Or, things like that. Things that are a little bit more specific based on, your background, your clubs and extracurriculars and your involvement. So those endowed scholarships, again, school specific and ways to help cut down the cost. And lastly, those external scholarships. So these could be through your local community, through parishes, through New York State, through Long Island, through Nassau, through Suffolk. I mean, all of those kind of differences. They're organizations that are helping support students go through college that are not affiliated with that college. So a number of different ways to kind of help cut down costs. But again, use your resources, use the financial aid team, the admissions team, your guidance counselors. You want to make sure that you're investing in yourselves and your futures, but not putting yourself in a spot where you're going to kind of be in a tough spot for a while and putting yourself and your family in a tough situation going forward. And that's really all I have. This is my contact. Again, if you guys want to take a screenshot, take a picture, by all means, whatever you guys would like. Again, that's my email, apolici@Siena. That is also our general Siena College email, and then also my direct number on the bottom.
Thank you very much, Mr. Policio. We really appreciate your time tonight. That concludes our first half of the presentation. If anybody has any questions for Mr. Policia, I would ask you to please put them into the Q&A on the bottom of your screen. And then as they come up, Mr. O'Hara will let us know and we will address them as they come up. So right now I'm going to move over to sharing my screen, which is a little bit more specific to Riverhead High School students. And again, a lot of what you're going to hear is somewhat redundant that Mr. Policia already spoke about. So I'm going to, mention it, but not go too in depth with that. And a lot of the information I'm going to share has to do with your junior planning conference. Again, to go into more detail with that would be recommended for you to set up with your high school guidance counselor. If you haven't done it yet, please, the appointments are filling up. We're doing it. We run it for about the next 5 weeks. We started this week, and it's very, very worth your time, worth your while to sit down. And it's not going to be a general overview. It's going to be specific to your son or daughter. So moving along at Riverhead High School, we like to talk to the kids and ask them, like, what does the 18-year-old want? Well, you heard Mr. Policia say it. We want to find the right brand. We want to find the right fit. These are really the key pieces that we want our students to understand. A place that they can identify with, a place that they're proud of, an institution that offers what they're studying. It's great to go to a school that you've always aspired to get to, but if they're not offering a program of study that you want, it's not going to be the right place for you. And unfortunately, sometimes people have different impressions or different assumptions on what is going to be a successful school for them. And then once they get there, it ends up not working out because they are not able to study what they really have their passion about, or it's not, the school is not committed to it at the level of their programming that the student would like. And that's the kind of thing that we really want to get out of the way prior to starting a school. Another one would be the right fit, somewhere where they feel they belong. And this is really with any organization, somewhere that they have social connections, an institution that invites them to be a part of the community. Let's face it, colleges, as Mr. Policia said, colleges want to get to know who you are. They love that. They love the letters of recommendation from teachers, coaches, community members. It gives them some insight to you beyond the numbers and the transcript and the scores. Because ultimately they want to make sure that you want to find that school that's the right fit for you. They want to make sure that you're the right fit for the school. There's a reason Siena has a 90% retention rate. And that is because they're very discerning in who they bring into their campus, because any school could fill up every seat their freshman year. But if they lose 40% of the students, they're not going to be around for very long. So that is something that not only the schools have to be mindful of, but we as consumers and guidance counselors and parents to our students and children need to be mindful of as well. We like to refer to it as connecting the dots. And I talk to students about this on a daily basis. What are things you should be considering? Again, a little bit of redundancy here. You want one-to-one communications. You want mentors, professors that take an interest in you, coaches that take an interest in you, advisors, residence assistants that take interest and get to know who you are as a student or who your son or daughter is. Academic counseling should always be available. Some students are not going to take advantage of it, but you need to know that it's there, because if we start to kind of go into the deep end of the pool and not lose the ability to swim, we want to make sure someone's there to get us a life preserver and give us a leg up or a hand up, I should say. We want a vibrant student life. One of the things that I really enjoyed about traveling to a place like Siena was for 4 years, most of those students all live on campus. Well, when you've got 4 years of students all living in a single campus, not really going to off-campus housing, you're bound to have an incredible student experience on the campus. And that is something that not only we want, again, as consumers, but the colleges want, because they want you to be involved. They want you to become part of the fabric of the community. They want you to enjoy yourself. They want you to graduate in 4 years. And then they want you to become an alumni member, who's donating to them down the road, and it's a person that's going to be proud of where they went. And that's not just Siena, this is any school. And obviously financial aid counseling, these are offices that students need to know where they are, because let's face it, life can throw us curveballs, things can change. Who would have thought we'd be dealing with this pandemic 2 years ago? It would have been, it would have been a science fiction novel. And unfortunately, a lot of people had to make a lot of hard choices with very little time. And to know that there is a financial aid office to find out what is available to you, how things can be worked out, can adjustments be made? Very, very important. Even if a student doesn't think they need it, they need to know where it is and they need to know it's available, as do their parents. Again, we talked about engagement, and engagement is with anything. It's whether are you engaged at a high school, you're engaged in an organization that you're working at, are you engaged at a college? And we talked about mentorships. I also like to call it coaching. It's being coached by professionals. It's working under professors who've had time in their field of study. Perhaps they're published with books on their field of study. You want to create human connections, not just working out of a classroom, not just being on a Zoom classroom call, but rather getting to know people and making those contacts. You heard about it when Mr. Policia said it. The key words you hear in schools today are team project exposure, being offered opportunities and experiences beyond the classroom, active learning projects. Just about every college website that I go to these days, you will see information about active learning projects. This is students working in small groups, cooperative projects, case studies, research, community service, consulting, study abroad opportunities, giving students a chance to get discovered, because through those active learning projects leads to internships, leads ultimately to contacts, what can get you interviews to jobs, and ultimately networking for careers. being able to make professional contacts. I know a Rolodex is a little antiquated term, but I like to say build your personal Rolodex to the kids. Finding practical workplace experiences on campus, off campus, or possibly out of the country while studying abroad. Talking a little bit about how it works at Riverhead High School. Going to go through this relatively quickly. Again, this will go into more detail during the junior planning conferences. And if you happen to be the parent or a student who is not in 11th grade, you can feel free to contact your guidance counselor and they can certainly talk to you about it. Or I always say right now they're kind of inundated with the junior conferences. You can always contact me, consider me your second guidance counselor at the high school. So starting in September of 2021, that's this coming September, you're going to get what we call a senior packet. And in that packet is going to be your initial transcript. The initial transcript is going to include all of your final course grades. It's not report card grades, it's final course grades, and it's Regents exams. If you have any questions about the grades or something doesn't seem quite right, you're given a time period to notify the guidance counselor. We will research it. If it appears that something was entered incorrectly, it doesn't happen often, but it has happened here and there. We will do the research. We will find out about it. Maybe a teacher keyed something in and it was correct and it wasn't keyed in the correct way. We will find out about it. Very important that you review that transcript, okay? Your initial transcript is the first transcript that we're going to be sending out to colleges on your behalf. Also in the senior packet are several guidance forms. The big three are the teacher recommendation request. You heard from Mr. Policia the importance of teacher recommendations. I also like to say coach recommendations. They can also be recommendations outside of the high school campus. They can be, so maybe you have a coach that you have an incredible relationship with. You're a softball player and the young lady has a coach who's the varsity coach is a middle school teacher. Well, the middle school teacher is not in the high school, but that middle school teacher can certainly write a recommendation on behalf of that student. We also like to get you to think about strategizing your recommendation requests. If you're going to ask a coach to write a recommendation for you, you might want to have some parallels there about a sport you plan on playing in college. If you want to be a math major starting out your freshman year of college, you really want to have someone in the math department writing a recommendation for you. Yes, it's nice to have a global 10 teacher write it, but it doesn't necessarily line up. And the college is going to look for that. I want to go for pre-med. You really want to have a chemistry teacher and a biology teacher or living environment teacher writing a recommendation for you. There's also a parent input form, and that's kind of the brag sheet. And that's the opportunity for parents to write information about their child. And that goes to the guidance counselor. That does not go to the colleges. Once we receive that, we will take that and we will craft that into our lobbying on behalf of your child when we are talking to admissions representatives like Mr. Policia. We are going to go to that because there's things about your child that we don't know. We may not know what their first job was. We may not know about a memorable and critical experience that they went through and perhaps they persevered through or they grew through. These are the kind of things that we learn about, and we're always stunned when we hear some of these stories. And we will also share that with their teachers that are writing recommendation forms on their behalf, because many times that allows that teacher to connect the dots. They might have had them in an English class all through 11th grade. However, they didn't know just what a monumental situation happened for the family a year or two earlier. And then they can understand why the student is a certain way. And many times it's just a really nice piece when they can cite those. And obviously it's up to you what you want to share, what you don't want to share. And sometimes you want to tell us things, but say, I don't want this shared with the teachers, and that's fine too. You know, we will respect any piece of it. And then there's an activity record, and that's basically for a student to write down all the clubs, all the sports, all the awards. Were they in scouts? Did they do community service projects? Were they involved with their church, or were they involved with their temple? Anything that they're doing outside of school that, again, we're not going to know about, but we provide that information to the teachers that are writing the letters of recommendation, and the guidance counselor always writes a letter of recommendation. So these are pieces that we're going to include to help build a better a better product to really trumpet your son or daughter. What you see here is kind of a timeline. We use a program called Naviance. Our juniors at this point have all been exposed to it. Ordinarily, we bring the kids on board when they're in middle school. So our underclassmen should have had an opportunity to set up Naviance accounts. This year, unfortunately, because of our closures and whatnot, we have not, and students working virtual, we have not been able to get as much of it. So this is going to be really incorporated and refreshed with the students through the junior planning conferences. We will be meeting with the students, the seniors that is, immediately at the start of school. Within the first 2 weeks of September, we start to bring the students down in small groups with their guidance counselors, and we will go over all of the things that you're hearing about here. Naviance, the common application. Again, Naviance is a web-based platform that allows students to search for colleges, search through majors, search through sports, geographics, size of schools, et cetera. They can put in all of the requisites that they're looking for, and then it will deliver them a sample of schools. And it's a really nice place to start if you're not quite sure where to go. And most of the kids will use it. They'll start out by geographic, and then they'll go from competitiveness, and then they'll go for the majors, et cetera. So it hits all the key points. Then it will, they have basically, they do abbreviated websites. So every college has their own website, and I can tell you they're all different, and you can spend hours working trying to navigate yourself through a college website. The nice thing about Naviance is they've created their own, as I said, I call it at a glance. That's what College Board used to call it. And it basically is a synopsis of the website, but everything's in the same place. So and it will also link you directly to the college's website if you want to see that. So it's very nice. So what we like to do is get the students uploaded onto their Naviance accounts. We can start that right now. The kids have had the Naviance account introductions, but I'm sure a lot of them are rusty with it, and that's fine. We expect that. At Riverhead High School, we really pride ourselves on really spoon feeding the kids through the whole process. And that is done by design, because as they come into their junior year, this is their time. This is when they need their guidance counselors, when they need the attention, and we're going to give it to them. So in other words, first steps are going to be to make sure that they understand how to log into Naviance. They may have to change their passwords. They make sure that their web addresses are correct. Once they get it, we're also going to have them set up a common application account. Basically, as Mr. Felici said, it's a universal application. Costs nothing to set up a common application account. It does cost money to apply through common application. There will be a surcharge on that. Okay, and just to give you an idea, about 6,000 schools in the United States today, give or take, about 900 schools on the common application. Okay, so most schools want to get onto the common app. It is a discerning organization. They are selective in the schools they allow to get into to become part of the Common App family, I should say. And when a school becomes part of the Common App family, they are very, very excited to trumpet that news because it is a big deal. Many schools feel that they've arrived when they get acknowledged by Common App. So Common App does cost a few more dollars, but again, it's either you're going to pay the money or you're going to pay the time, because it is a tremendous time saver. Once you set up the Common App account and the student sets up their Naviance account, we sync the two. We link the two so that Common App and Naviance can talk to one another, and documents from Common App can be sent through Naviance and Naviance through Common App. Okay, it becomes a marriage of sorts. There is also something known as a FERPA agreement. And basically what the FERPA agreement is, not to get into too much detail, it's basically allowing you as a student, or allowing information to be passed on about you to the colleges that are considering you for admission. You have the choice whether or not to decline the FERPA agreement. We recommend that you allow the FERPA agreement, you accept it, but if you want more discussion about that, that is something you'll get into with your guidance counselor at the junior conference, or you can always contact me. Again, once Common App and Naviance are a marriage of sorts, at that point, you can upload your essay onto Common App as well as onto Naviance, because you might be applying to a school through Naviance that's not part of Common App. Okay, so you have that option as well. But the college essay, just so you're aware, if you are a student that is in 11th grade and you are in the advanced placement English language and composition class, okay, that is our college college level course for English for juniors, they have a May AP exam, advanced placement exam. That is the big exam for the AP classes. After that exam concludes, the AP teachers, our AP teachers this year are Ms. Philcox and Ms. Strobel. I should say this year, they've done it for several years. Ms. Strobel and Ms. Philcox, they will be working on college essays with the students right through the end of the year. And if you are not in an AP class, no worries about that. Once you start your English 12 class next year, the first assignment you're going to be working on with your English 12 teachers will be your college essay. So you will be, again, walked through very carefully and very purposely with our English professionals, helping students find their voice, okay? Find their voice and really fine tune their message. Again, once that essay is completed, it's uploaded to Common App, it's uploaded to Naviance. It is part of the materials that we send to the college. Excuse me. Through the Naviance, I did mention about college searches. You have the opportunity, students have the opportunity to go through that. That is something that's ongoing. And what the students have the opportunity to do is to create a list of schools that they're thinking about. Once they decide to apply to a school, they shift it from what they're thinking about to where they're applying to. Now, if a guidance counselor goes into the student profile, they will see what schools the student's applying to. But because this is such a time-sensitive issue, we always say, we can't say it enough. I remind students time again, send us an email, notify us when you applied. Don't just think because you put it into the Naviance that we do not get emails of every time a student applied to a school, okay? So the counselors are very, very dedicated and steadfast in managing it and checking through their students' lists. We do it nonstop. And, I would say 99% of the time we catch it before they even tell us. But in the off chance that someone applies, never bothers to tell us, we don't want you to miss a deadline. We don't want to miss a deadline. We don't miss deadlines at Riverhead High School. But I just want all hands on deck. Okay. I want everyone being as aware as possible when it comes to that. So again, the student needs to notify the guidance counselor when they're applying. Now, once you notify us, then it's all on us. We've got to get all the information from your account over to that school. And once it's done, you can look in your account and you can see it in real time. So years ago, before we had this program, we did everything through the US Postal Service. And I would come in on Monday mornings and there would be stacks of phone messages from panicked parents, panicked students being told it didn't go through. We talked to the admissions office on Friday afternoon at 5 o'clock. They said they never received it. And then the family would go through complete stress and pain the entire weekend. The guidance counselor would come into my office, looked like, they just saw a ghost. They're telling me, I sent it. And then ultimately 3 or 4 days later, we'd find out they did send it and it was sitting on a desk somewhere. And they got so overwhelmed that they weren't able to get through it. So we just want to avoid that. The nice thing is with Naviance, as a parent, as a student, you can log in and you can see the exact date it was sent and reach the server at the school. So it's wonderful and has taken a lot of stress out of our students' lives, as well as our guidance counselors. Important websites that you want to get yourself accustomed to, obviously Naviance, the Common App, students. In this day and age with the pandemic that we've had, most schools are becoming test optional with SATs and ACTs. However, we have started offering them again. We did shut down, I think as of last March, we did not offer it. And then we didn't offer the March, the May, the June exams, nothing over the summer. We did start to open it back up in October and we're continuing those. The nice thing about those is you can take those tests, and if you don't see a score that you're happy with, you don't have to submit it. But if it's a score that you are happy with, submit it. You've got nothing to lose. And if you're above the mean that the school's looking for, I feel it can only help. Okay. And once again, there's something called a super score. And again, not to get too technical here, but if you took an SAT 2 times and an ACT 2 times, you could mix and match the SAT scores. If you did better on the math the first time you took it and better on the reading the second time you took it, you can match the best math and the best reading and send only those. The schools are not going to see the scores that you choose not to submit. And that's the same thing with the ACT. We talked a little bit about how many, different kinds of schools. What are you looking for? We like to see students applying for anywhere from 6 to 9 schools. we like to break them down by reach schools, which would be schools that are above where their current performance is. Schools are not looking at you necessarily as potential. They're looking at you for performance. They like to build in a little potential factor there, but they're going to be looking at hard numbers. So they're going to set their bar. It's always good to apply to 2 or 3 schools beyond the level that you've been working at and that you've been scoring. Then, of course, we have target schools. Those are schools dead on exactly where you're at. You know, if you've got an 84 GPA and they're looking for an 80 to an 86 GPA, you're spot on. That's going to be considered a target school. And then a safety school, obviously, is something that we look as a backup. We like all of our students to apply to Suffolk County Community College, or if they want Nassau Community College, but definitely apply to those community colleges. They fill up fast. And although they have open enrollment and anyone can be admitted to those schools, if you apply late, you may not be able to get into the specific session that you want. Like you may have to go in the evenings. You may have to go at a certain time that doesn't work for you. So even though you might not be thinking about it, apply to the community college. Because as I said, life gets in the way, unexpected circumstances happen. People go through financial difficulties, unemployment situations. Things can happen down the road that aren't happening now. And it's just a great way to have yourself covered. It's to cover the bases. And again, verify the deadlines and double check the websites. Naviance, as I said, does have individual school sites for every single school. But I always tell parents, I tell the kids, they are a third party. The school, Siena College, may have a beautiful little write-up on Naviance. It's very helpful to you. But if you're serious about applying to Siena, once you make that decision, you want to go to that Siena website. Because Siena, if they decide to change an application date or they change a deadline of some sort, it may get to Naviance, but it might get there 6 weeks late. So you want to make sure that you know in real time, whatever school it is, whether it's a Siena, it's a Marist, it's a SUNY Albany, whatever school you're applying to, you need to verify the deadlines that they have published on their websites. Okay, don't rely on third parties. Again, Mr. Plicci did a nice job talking about early action, early decision. I'm just going to say he already did it very eloquently, but under early acceptances, early decision binds you. Okay, it binds you. It means you are committed to attending that school. Okay, early action. It is also it does show an enhanced level of interest for the schools. You can apply to usually more than one school for early action if you choose. Sometimes if they admit you, you have to withdraw your other early action applications. But different schools have different rules about that. So, there's no set rule for everybody. But early decision is pretty much across the board. If you get accepted, you have to surrender everything else. You are applying to that school. You are committed to them financially to attend that school. Early action, again, does not bind you. And people like it because they can apply early. It gives them a jump on things. And it also lets the school know that you're serious about them, that you're taking an additional step, that you're willing to get your information in earlier because you want to know it. And sometimes if things don't work out early action, schools will offer you the chance to go into regular decision as well. So you can, even if you don't get, if you get waitlisted early action, you could transfer that over to a regular admissions, but that would be something that you'd have to discuss with the schools. And they would usually tell you that if it didn't work out. Once you've applied, again, what did I say? Notify the guidance counselor immediately. Okay, you've got to let us know. And you've also got to let us know early decision, early action, or regular decision. And just so you're aware, when you ask a teacher to write a letter of recommendation for you, I'm talking to students here, you send a request online through Naviance. However, do not rely on Naviance. This is a big effort that you're asking from your teachers. You need to approach them in person and make it a personal experience, asking that teacher, asking whoever it would be, asking Mr. Moore, asking Mr. Spinella, asking Ms. Philcox, hey, would you do me a favor? I really enjoyed your class last year. Would you please consider writing a letter of recommendation on my behalf? Once they agree to it, then send them the invite from Naviance, because to send it just through Naviance and not to give them the courtesy of a direct conversation face to face, it's rather presumptuous and it's just bad form. So we really want our students and really insist that our students have a face-to-face conversation with those teachers. And on the form, there is a checkoff box if it's early decision, early action, or regular decision, how you're applying. So the teachers know if you're applying early action, they're going to get your letter of recommendation done earlier. And keep in mind this also, usually our 11th grade teachers get hit up with the most recommendation requests. And sometimes these teachers will say, hey, I agree to 30. And once I agree to 30 recommendations, which is a tremendous amount of time, as you can imagine, I do not go beyond that. Okay. And another thing is when a teacher writes a recommendation letter, it is private. They share it with the guidance counselor. Teachers are usually excited to share it with the students. They want the student to see what they wrote about them because these are not cookie cutter letters. They really try to make them personal and real. And if they accept that responsibility from you, they want to put you in a great light. However, we do not show it to the student unless the teacher gives us permission. I don't think any teacher in the building is not allowing that, but some of the teachers will say, yeah, I don't mind if so-and-so wants to see the letter, but I want to speak to them first, so have them come and talk to me for whatever reason. So we always want to honor that when the teachers are giving up so much time outside of the classroom to do this on behalf of the students. And we also ask you to write a thank you letter. Again, good form, proper common courtesy, the right thing to do. When someone goes out of their way to do something for you, to take their time, we want to show appreciation. Okay. And I'd also like to say that's the same thing with the colleges. If you do have an interview, send a thank you letter. You know, the more contact you have with the colleges, the more heightened your level of interest appears. And I think it can only benefit one. And obviously, once you've, when you decide you're interested in a school at Naviance, I said you can move it to a school you're applying to. You've got to keep that updated. You can't just say, I applied to a school, but I never moved it to a school I'm applying to. Unless you do that, we cannot send the documents through Naviance on your behalf. So for students, they really need to stay on top of their Naviance account. It only takes a couple of minutes, really a couple of minutes a day to stay on top of it, maybe a couple of minutes every couple of days, not a problem. And then obviously, if you're going to be sending SAT and ACT scores, you don't send them through Riverhead High School. You pay for those scores yourself. You pay for those tests yourself. You request College Board to send them. When they come from College Board or ACT, they are considered official scores. If they come from us, they can be considered unofficial. Some schools will accept them, some students won't, or some schools won't. So we just recommend our students go to the College Board or to the ACT. College Board runs SAT, by the way. College Board, and have them send them directly. Once you have applied, your guidance counselor is going to be sending your transcript. They're going to send your initial or the fall one you checked over with the senior packet, your mid-year transcript, which is going to be usually in late February, and then your final transcript in June after graduation and your final grades are posted. We recommend at least 2 to 3 letters of recommendation. Your guidance counselor will always write you 1 letter, and then we recommend a teacher. Some people do 2 teachers, some people like to do a coach, but if you're going to use a teacher, I would recommend that you use a teacher that teaches a subject area that has some parallel to what the course of study is you want to pursue in school. And then a school profile, that's nothing to do on a student's end. It's just basically a piece of literature that I publish every year. It's on our school guidance webpage now, and it just gives how many students are in the school, what is the demographics of our school, what honors or advanced placement or college courses are offered at the school. Quick question, why would you put that in? Well, if a student's, again, I'm going to say pre-med, if a student's applying for a pre-med program and there was an advanced placement biology course and an advanced placement chemistry course, that school might say, why didn't this student take those courses that were afforded to them? Where if they're going to a smaller school, maybe somewhere further out on the North Fork of Long Island, they may not have an AP chemistry class. They may only offer it every 2 years. And you might have been a new entrant that last year and you didn't get a chance to take it. Or you couldn't take it till it was your senior year because it wasn't offered to you your junior year. Therefore, you don't have a final grade on your transcript when you're applying. So the school profile just kind of puts everyone on an even playing field. The schools can get a real flavor for where you hail from and what opportunities were offered to you and what you took advantage of and also what you didn't take advantage of. We list sports, we list the way that we weight our grade, our courses, that we list clubs, co-curricular, and how many staff members, et cetera. So it's quite extensive. It's on the webpage if you choose to take a look at it. Student athletes, if you're going to be participating in college, you have to go through the you have to go through the NCAA clearinghouse. At the high school, we have one guidance counselor, Miss Marino, who's a former Division I athlete herself. She is kind of our go-to person. Each of the guidance counselors have a little area of expertise that they focus on, and I send them out for continual professional development on. If you're going to be playing sports in college, you need to let your guidance counselor know. The quicker we know, the better. We'll make sure that you understand exactly what you have to do and what benchmarks you have to meet to participate in either Division I, II, or III. They have different benchmarks for each of the 3 divisions. We've got some SAT dates. I did say many of the schools are going test optional these days. However, we really do think it's almost a rite of passage for students. It's not a bad thing to do. We are a testing center at Riverhead High School, which means we run the exams on Saturday mornings. But that also means because we're a testing center, we are a regional testing center. We get students from Manhattan, Connecticut, New Jersey, let alone Mattituck and West Hampton and Hampton Bays and Longwood. So our seats fill up fast. It really irks me when Riverhead students get blocked out, but it does happen. So if you want to take an exam, whether it be an SAT or an ACT, take it, get in and apply early. Again, you do that online, go to College Board, click on SAT, or go to act.org, click on ACT, and you can sign up. It's a little early. I don't have the date set yet, but every October, we do an NCAA information night, and we couple that with a financial aid night. So from 5:30 to 6:30, we will have NCAA professionals come in for our student athletes. It's usually maybe 12 students or so, but it's great. They're there. They are part of the NCAA clearinghouse. They know all the latest rules and regulations. And then from 6:30 to 7:30, we bring in a financial aid professional. We actually do a spring night also. We did it a few weeks back in March. Actually, that was done by Terry Donnell from Suffolk Community College. And that presentation is on our website. So if you missed it and you're curious and you want to go back, you can click on it and you can see the recorded presentation, as tonight's presentation will be on the website as well. And just a few questions, frequently asked questions that come up. Are there any teachers or subject areas students should consider when asking a letter of recommendation? I already answered that. Absolutely. If you want to study French or Spanish in college, you should be having a French or Spanish teacher as part of your letter of recommendation. Do you recommend students take the ACT or the SAT? Is one better to take over the other? Parents ask me this question every year, and I say it all depends on the student. The old rule of thumb is that if you're a stronger math student, you'll probably like the SAT better because it's 50% math, 50% reading. If you're an AC, if math is not your strong point, you're probably going to like the ACT because it is only 25% math. Okay, it's more subject based. So again, we recommend the students take both, but the tipping factor is traditionally the math. And again, I already answered this. Do you send those scores through Naviance? No, we do not. We do upload them into Naviance. So we have them to when, a student may forget what their scores are, or they may want to go back and look at them so they can see historical data. We do get a data file from these organizations that we pay for, and we upload it into Naviance, but it does not get sent to the schools, okay? That you'd have to do on yourself. And is it too late to set up a junior planning conference? Absolutely not. We just started. We sent out that letter over the break, and please contact your guidance counselor, call them, email them. We will meet you virtually. We will do a phone conference. We will meet you face to face, and it will not just be the student. It'll be the student. It'll be the parent. It could be any adult figure that is an influencing figure in that student's life. If the student wants to bring that person in, and they usually last about a full period, and sometimes it goes over multiple periods depending upon what we're working on. Lastly, what are students looking for that have a successful college experience? When students come out of college, I love to talk to our graduates that come back, and basically I break it down to 4 areas. Strategists, being able to understand what is needed. I say market needs, but that doesn't mean you're necessarily to be business. What is needed, and that can be used across the board. Implementers, people that are able to take systems and get results, put a plan into action, go beyond what's written or what is usable or what is thought of as the norm, go above and beyond that. Idealists, to be able to understand and sense social needs, what's happening at your college, what's happening around the country, and what are corporations and grad schools looking for. And then obviously diplomatic skills, being able to build relationships, work with people different than yourself, try to build bridges and get to a better place. The same way we as professionals or as adults or as students, we don't necessarily have to agree with everybody we work with, but we have to be able to build relationships and work with them to get a better product. So when kids are saying, why do I want to go to college? What am I going to come out of it? Yes, you're going to come out of it with a degree, but hopefully, most of the learning, or I should say, if not more than the learning, is done outside of the classroom, which is what we were talking about, and that self-actualization. And these are the 4 key components that I go to a lot of colleges, and I always hear the same pieces. And these are the ones that I kind of broke it down to. So at this point, that concludes my presentation. And if we have any question and answers, we're going to ask you to put it out there.
Okay, so there is one question so far. And so for clarification, when does the Common App get filled out? And when does the free application for federal student aid form get filled out?
I can jump in a little bit for this one. So the common application, that's going to become available for the fall of your senior year. And from what Mr. Gassar was saying, it sounds like you'll be working with your guidance counselors to kind of put together the common application for it. Again, as far as timeline, really be mindful of the college deadlines that you're looking for. So for our deadlines, our common application regular admission deadline, that isn't until March, but our early action deadline is in November. So just be very mindful of when the application deadlines are. A lot of colleges' applications become available in August. Ours is available August 1st. So starting as early as August, September, the Common App becomes available. And as for the FAFSA, that becomes available October 1st. And I mean, the sooner the better for the FAFSA. There's again, certain schools have deadlines for those. Again, Siena, we don't have a FAFSA deadline, but the sooner the better. The sooner you submit it, the sooner you'll get your financial aid packages back, the sooner you can kind of work towards making a decision for the college process. And Mr. Gassar, did I miss anything on that?
No, thank you. I just got knocked out for a second and had to jump back in. So thank you for taking that. Yeah, and just in case, you are a family that may have had someone who went through the college process 5 or 6 years ago, the old date was January 1st. Okay, the FAFSA was January 1st. The federal government backed it up to October 1st. And then people say, well, I don't have my taxes and I don't get my my W-2 forms by October 1st. You do a forecast, okay? You do a forecast, and then if it needs to be adjusted, it gets adjusted. And usually it's pretty close and it's not a problem. And then I do have some families that say, well, you know what? My spouse and I are both gainfully employed, and looking at the numbers, my daughter or my son is not going to be eligible for any financial aid. But we tell them, fill out the FAFSA anyway. The colleges, many times the college's own scholarship, maybe it's a merit scholarship on your academic performance. They're going to base part of it off that FAFSA. So even if you don't think it's going to get you anywhere, you should still fill it out for the colleges, and most of the colleges are going to recommend that anyway.
Thank you both for that. So far, nothing in the Q&A.
All right.
Oh, here we go.
As we start to wrap it up, I want to thank again everybody for coming out tonight. This can be a daunting and overwhelming process for our parents of our juniors, our 11th graders, the first time they're going through it. You have a seasoned professional team at Riverhead High School. And again, I put it out there every meeting. Consider me your second guidance counselor. There's really not too much that you're gonna bring to us that we haven't seen before, and maybe some of the steps may have changed or been adjusted a little bit, but we will certainly get it through you to you and get you through it. Communication is the key, so please stay in touch with us, and if you haven't done so yet, set up an appointment with your child's guidance counselor. The Junior Planning Conference is a critical rite of passage for all high school students. And you will come out of it with a lot more information than you walked into it with.
Mr. Gassar, we have a question that came in as you were beginning to wrap up. And then one more that I dismissed on accident because it had an anonymous attendee and I wasn't sure, but the parent has clarified that it was them. So first question is, due to COVID, many regions this year have been canceled and last year they were all canceled. How will this affect our college applications? And do we need to do anything to supplement them? Also, how will last year's AP exams and this year's AP exams be weighed by colleges?
Before I answer that, I'm going to turn that to Mr. Policia as an admissions representative. I'm going to let him speak to it, and then I will give you my take in speaking with other schools.
Yeah, so Sienna's in a unique spot. I mean, we're a New York school, but we do review a lot of applications for non-New York students, and Regencies are a New York exam. So we don't look too heavily into them because we like to, equate and weigh our students from different states and everything pretty equally on a kind of an even playing field. So Regents exams, we never really look too far into advance or look too far into. And a lot of colleges feel that way. Majority of colleges don't explore Regents exams too deep outside of some specific program. So when it comes to our 8-year medical college program, we do look at the Regents exam for, chemistry, math, and your sciences to make sure that, you've historically done well. But generally, Regents exams don't hold too much weight for a lot of colleges. Not all. Again, do your research, as I mentioned. But generally, not the heaviest of things. And AP exams, at least again here at Siena, we understand the last year has been a global pandemic. APs, Regents, right? SATs, ACTs. All of these couldn't have been, they were not offered. Students couldn't take them. We are being completely understanding with that. To be completely honest, it's kind of, a developing process, right? So we're still learning. We're going through this with all the students, with all the families, as you all are. At this time, students who are in a position to take an AP exam, fantastic. That's great. That'll help certain schools, not all schools, but it'll help a lot of schools with the transferability of credits and also just kind of the overall kind of review of applications. So I know it's not the most concrete answers, of course, but a lot of them are going to be kind of school specific. So do your research, contact admissions. I can tell you right now, Regents exams don't weigh too heavily for us. AP exams don't matter to us outside of the transferability of credits. So that's that kind of thing.
Thank you, Ms. Policcia. Yes, my sentiments exactly. New York State Regent, we are the only state in the United States that offers Regents exams. California had it and they got rid of it probably 15, 20 years ago. So outside of New York, it really doesn't really weigh much. And last year, all of our students got exemptions. But they all got exemptions because the Regents exams weren't offered. So we're all in the same playing field. No one had the advantage of taking exams or not taking exams. With the AP exams do not weigh into a student's final grade. Remember, AP exams are not released until July and our courses conclude in June. So we couldn't catalog them into a weighting factor for a final grade, even if we wanted to. And just a side note, I am the AP coordinator at Riverhead High School. So AP is near and dear to my heart. It takes up a lot of my day. And that's okay. I enjoy it. But I will tell you that last year, all of our AP exams went virtual. Okay. No students took pen and paper exams. And the AP exams are based on a rubric of 1 through 5. Okay. And 3, 4, and 5. 3 is considered passing, and then 4 and 5 are above passing and exemplary. And very hard to get a 4 and a 5. No two ways about it. But I will let you know that our performance from those that went from a 3 or higher jumped almost 20% last year. Okay. So our students did incredibly well. It was, if anything, they gained ground. They did not suffer from the AP exams. And those are not scored by Riverhead teachers. Those are scored by AP scorers across the country. So that didn't happen. Now this year, the Regents exams, they are limiting the number of Regents exams. We're only offering English language arts, Algebra 1, Earth Science, and Living Environment. Okay. And basically it's almost like a field test. We're going to give students the option to take that exam if they so choose. But if they don't take the exam, they're going to be given an exemption. If they do not pass the exam, they're going to be given an exemption. If they do pass the exam, we're going to post it on the transcript, but the Riverhead Board of Education this year is exempting the Regents exam grade to be calculated as part of the student's final grade. Because right now, students have 4 quarters of grades, and then they have a Regents exam, and that counts as 20%. So it's kind of a 5th marking period. That's not going to be the case this year. So most of our students, I would imagine, are not going to take the Regents exams. If they do, they'll be, I would imagine they're going to be quite excited about it, but those courses are not taken by juniors and by seniors. Students, they're taking those in earlier grades with the exception of the ELA exam. And again, if they don't take it, they're going to get an exemption. And I think that's what most of the state's going to be doing. So not going to be too much of a factor this year.
Okay. College education in the USA is multi-billion-dollar industry. The decision to attend a school ought to be a financial one, like buying a car or a house. Please describe the bargaining process between student and school to achieve the best financial package for the student.
Yeah, so during that process, right, so the application process, you're going to get a number of numbers kind of back and forth, an initial package with your scholarship packages, and then your initial financial aid package. And maybe the numbers work out financially and they're perfect, and that's, you know, the grass is green and everything's good. But majority of the cases, that's not the case, especially with Long Island families, being that, you know, living expenses on the island isn't really similar to anywhere else in the country. So, you know, when you're applying to colleges and they see a family's income, that's not a true representation of the amount of money that, you know, it goes into your pockets and can kind of fund your college experience. So it is definitely a bargaining experience, as you said. But I want to say my biggest recommendation is demonstrating interest with this college, right? So students who show me that are from Long Island, they show me they want to be at Siena, and, you know, they get accepted in, let's just say November. Okay, their financial aid package goes out in January, and maybe it's middle of February, and they're like, hey, you know, we really would love to go to Siena, but, you know, insert school gave us a better package, or it's just not cheap. Like, you know, the scholarship package isn't where it needs to be, or financial aid isn't good enough. Okay, well, now that you show me that you want to be here, the financial aid team, the school, the college, the university, they're going to be more willing to attempt to work with you and try to make that college or university as you know, as affordable as possible. A lot of schools have, you know, appeal processes and reevaluation processes that all you have to do is usually just ask a question. Hey, how can I go about an appeal process, or how can I reevaluate, or how can I have the financial aid team reevaluate my financial aid package? And sometimes it's a super easy step and they say, yep, sure, we'll take another look. Oh, you're right, you know, you do deserve another X amount of money, or, you know, based on your academics and based on other external factors and things, there's nothing else we can do. So it is a bargaining agreement, but the biggest thing is having an open flow of communication, right? So constantly demonstrating interest, chatting with the financial aid team. Colleges, we're not looking to turn anybody away. We want to enroll students. We want to help students, right? We want to bring you into our college. We're not going to look for reasons to turn you away or give you guys a hard time. We're going to do everything in our power to make this an affordable experience and make it a possibility for you to join our college community. But it does take 2 to tango, right? So you definitely need to kind of communicate and make sure that, you know, if you apply in January, or let's say you get accepted in October, and then I hear from you in, you know, April 10th, and you're saying, hey, you know, I really want to go to Siena. Like, what can I do? And it's been 7 months, like, you know, it's been 5 months. Where's all the other little communications where, you know, we've had on-campus events? A lot of schools, you know, in a non-COVID year have programs in different regions. So like, we do a lot of things on Long Island. You know, why didn't you come to the things on Long Island? Why haven't you opened our emails? Do all these little things to show that college you want to be a part of that school. And then at that same token, use your other scholarship packages as leverage, right? So again, maybe school X gave you, maybe the school X is the same price and they give you $5,000 more in scholarship. Okay, bring that to in, you know, Siena, or bring it to your respective school and say, hey, this school helped us out. Like, is there anything we can do? Is there any other, you know, maybe additional scholarship, maybe, you know, more work study numbers, or just anything to help make it affordable. But
Yeah.
really, again, utilize your resources, showing interest and kind of using those other scholarship packages you've received so far as leverage in that conversation.
I would agree with everything you just said. And I would add on it the conversation I have with students every year. And I said, look, you got to be honest. College costs money. Okay. It is not free and public education. Okay. It's going to cost money, and you have to accept the fact that you're going to have to be paying that money. However, It's an investment in yourself. And quite honestly, there is no other investment in the world that's better than investing in yourself. So once we kind of come to that realization, I then also say to the students, and I like what Mr. Pucci said, if you have another school that's a competitive school, use that as leverage. However, sometimes you may be the best package that you've gotten. Let's just say it's Siena, and Siena comes in at X number of dollars and no one else is at X number of dollars, but you're still not quite there. My recommendation is when you speak to the financial aid office, have a number in mind. Don't go in blind and say, I need more money. And quite honestly, going in and saying, well, I can do it, but I need you to cut it by 40%. It's not going to happen. But if you can go in there and you can say to them, I want to attend, it's my first choice school, but I'm just not quite there. I really need to get this down $3,000 a year, $4,000. If you give them a number, usually they can work with the number. They may not be able to meet the number, but then they know, okay, we're serious. They've done the math. They've worked this out. They're really serious about it. And one more thing is apply early. And that's another thing that Anthony alluded to. Apply early, because the fact is they have a finite pot of financial aid awards. And as they start to give acceptances and admits to students, they're also then putting together financial aid packages. Not every student is going to accept that financial aid package, and they have a rubric of exactly what they can figure is going to be accepted. However, if you apply early, I really do believe you have a better chance of getting more, because they have a bigger pot at that point. They haven't given it out to other people. So I realize that's kind of, Chuck Cassar's thought about financial aid, but I do believe that. And I have shared that with admission representatives and financial aid office representatives. And they all say, yeah, in September, October, we've got more money to dole out than we do in February. So just food for thought.
Okay.
Any other questions, Mr. O'Hara?
Yes, there are. So are there discounts for ACT or SAT exams?
Yes. Students that meet financial need criteria can get fee waivers. So if you have interest in that, you can go onto the ACT or the SAT website and see the numbers, or you can speak to your child's guidance counselor. And if you qualify, I have fee waivers in my office that I will be happy to apply. Students can then take up to 3 exams, either exam off of the same code. So that's something that you would speak to your guidance counselor about. Or if you had any specific questions or for whatever reason, maybe you didn't feel comfortable talking to the guidance counselor, you could contact the organization directly. Absolutely. And once they get a fee waiver, there is no charge for the exam.
Okay, I'm not seeing any others at this time.
Okay. Well, again, the Junior Planning Conference is really the next step for our families of 11th grade students. Wealth of information. I know I've been hammering that home all night, but it really is worth your time. And again, the guidance counselors will meet with you before school. They'll meet with you during school. They'll meet with you after school. They'll just have to work out a time that's convenient for both parties. And we can do it virtually, we can do it by phone, or we can do it live. So please come and join us. And if you have any further questions, send me an email, contact me, call me. I love to hear from parents. I'll be happy to get back to you. And on behalf of Riverhead High School, Mr. Pucci, I want to thank you so much for coming out tonight. Fellow Long Islander, Siena graduate, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you guys again so much for having me. And the Riverhead community, appreciate you. Like I said before, appreciate you guys letting me into your homes right now. But anything you guys need on the college front, again, it could be Siena or it could just be general college questions. You guys have all my emails now. Let me know. Ask Mr. Cassar. He can pass along my information as well. Whatever you need, I'm here to help you guys out.
And I would just like to thank you, Mr. Pucci, as well, for joining us, and Mr. Cassar for arranging this evening and for all of your information, and Ms. Perez for translations, and Ms. Stevenson for helping us with the webinar. Thank you very much, everybody. Enjoy your evening.
Thank you very much.